So, what's happening in Portland? A lot of people are saying it's fine. Some people are saying it's going off the rails, but what's the reality here? You can really feel the tension in the air when people are talking about Portland right now. For over 4 months, there's been a concentrated area near the Immigration and Customs Enforcement building, the ICE building. Their field office has become the center for nightly protests, disruption, and a lot of frustration in the community. And what began as a demonstration about federal immigration policy has now evolved into something much more complicated. It's now kind of a standoff that affects hundreds of citizens, business owners, and families who are simply trying to live nearby. So let me set the scene for you. These protests are mainly focused around the ICE building in Portland's South Waterfront District. So it's really just few block area, 2 to 4 blocks. But what's happening is every night there's been gatherings where protesters and federal agents and media kind of clash, and a lot of it's kind of just crazy. And what used to be an office area in a residential neighborhood has now become the point of contention. And I know it's just a few blocks radius, but the people who live in those few blocks are really suffering. And it feels like a whole nother world when you cross over into that threshold. And over the past few months, what started as marches and chants have turned into near daily nighttime rallies, complete with strobe lights, loud music, lasers, fireworks, smoke. It's almost like a rave. There's people in costumes, there's people in black clad clothing, and these protesters often wear the black clothing and so they cover their faces, and then they stand in the street to block vehicles. That's been a big issue as the Portland police say, oh yeah, come down here, this is fine, no worries. And then people try to go down there and they get blocked. Some people get yelled at, some people get threatened. It can be a scary situation. OHSU is about 6 blocks away, and me and my wife go there for medical treatment, and I could see some old person just turning the wrong way and driving down there and ending up in one of these rallies and being very scared and getting threatened and surrounded. And yeah, things can go bad quickly. As we've seen, there's been media people attacked, there's been protesters attacked, there's been ICE officers attacked. It's been pretty rough. And these are supposed to be peaceful protests, but they're anything but peaceful for the people who live there. As I said, there is a lot of people being affected by this, and there's an apartment building with hundreds of residents who are scared to come out of their building, especially at night, to, if they need to walk their dog or go out and smoke a cigarette or whatever. They can't do that. And there's also families in here. There's combat veterans with PTSD, and people are doing fireworks and playing loud music. There's lots of loud noises that could trigger somebody with PTSD. I can't imagine if all that stuff was happening outside my house. I wouldn't feel comfortable to go out, especially like without a gun or something. Like, it's crazy out there. But that's primarily in the nighttime. Like, let's say when it starts to get later in the afternoon, 3, 4, on into the wee hours of the night, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, it kind of settles down after then. And not every night's crazy. Some nights are fine, but it's really bad. This is going on for over 3 to 4 months now. I want to say 120 days. So yeah, 4 months. And that's every night, like consecutive 4 months protests. I mean, I understand the right for peaceful protest, and that's fine. I want to encourage that. But there's a line that's kind of being overstepped. And recently we've had the Portland police clean up the encampments that are around there that seem to be supporting these 24/7 protests. So I don't understand what their end game is or like what they think's going to happen long term, but that's just my perspective. I'm one person and I don't even live in Portland. I'm just talking about it. So the impact of the neighborhood, imagine living in an apartment where every single night you hear shouting, sirens, explosions, your windows are rattling, tear gas drifts through the air in through your AC or your window. There's lights flashing through the curtains and you can't sleep. Your kids can't sleep. You can't open your windows. It's hard to even rest. So this is what many residents are facing right now and have been living with for months. And some have reported headaches, burning eyes, respiratory irritation from the tear gas, and others describe anxiety and exhaustion from the constant noise and fear that something will escalate. And small business owners have been caught in the middle of this. Shops near the protest zone have struggled to stay open. Some are losing customers and closing early to avoid confrontation, which is understandable. There's also a school nearby who's decided to stop meeting, citing safety concerns. There's encampments all along the roadways and sidewalks, and there's a smell of whatever they're smoking, along with chemical agents lingering in the air. So for the people who live and work in this small corner of Portland, it's not about politics, it's about survival, sanity, and longing for peace, really. The protesters themselves represent a mix of emotions here. Some are deeply committed to opposing what they see as unjust immigration enforcement practices. They're just calling attention to the treatment of detainees and to what they view as systematic injustice in federal detention policies. And I get that and I want to support that. That's great. There's a group dynamic that thrives on spectacle. Lasers, costumes, loud noise, defiance. Some call it activism, others say it's chaos. Either way, each night becomes a performance of tension and resistance. And there's a surprising infrastructure behind it. There's local supporters dropping off hundreds of dollars worth of food, medical supplies, camp gear, and even smoke masks. So it's pretty crazy how organized it is, and I hear it's decentralized and not sustained, and I understand that, but it's obviously well organized to the point where they can do it for months on end. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to get any conspiracies here. Some people are like, oh, these people are all funded by George Soros and Antifa, and I'm not sure about that. I don't think all of them are. I think there's a lot of confusion. But anyway, I want to talk about the law enforcement and the government response. This is where things get a little confusing in many ways and kind of revealing. On social media, the Portland police often post updates saying that the roads are open, traffic's clear, and things are calm. But those who live there tell a totally different story. For months, local police have seemed hesitant to intervene in the protests, leaving it up to ICE agents and officers to clear their own roadways, and that's where the tensions rise. So, as local police take a step back, they're almost leaving a gap for ICE to fill. They've taken a step back approach, perhaps to avoid inflaming situations or being seen as opposing protesters, because police can actually get in trouble because it's a sanctuary city. They can actually get in trouble for helping ICE and being seen cooperating with them. So that's a whole nother level of just weirdness. So the Portland police have taken a step back. Federal agents are having to be more aggressive and deploy tear gas, flashbangs, and crowd control tactics that have spilled over into these residential areas. There have been a few arrests. A lot of them were media, which doesn't make sense, but there's not been nearly as many as arrests as you might expect given the nightly chaos. It's led many to wonder if parts of the city have quietly become no-go zones for police, or at least no arrest zones. I don't know. There's a lot of people asking a lot of different questions, and I have more questions than answers right now. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what your take is on the situation. But meanwhile, the state and city leadership, the governor and the mayor have maintained a calm public stance. They talk about dialogue, understanding, and de-escalation. But the residents say those words ring hollow when they can't really sleep at night. The president is encouraging National Guard to come in and help ICE agents and police, but the Oregon governor and mayor are saying it's not needed. So I'd leave that up to you to decide. What do you think after seeing all the chaos and stuff? I'm not sure if you guys have even seen videos, so I'll put some in here just to show you. And this is kind of some of the worst of it, but just to see it all compiled together.
Move. If you're a big strong guy coming out here to take the have yourselves, you got your hair over.
Oh, they got pushed.
So part of what fuels this conflict is a zoning issue. The ICE building itself has been accused of operating outside of the limits of its original permits. That has given protesters new leverage, claiming the federal government is not just enforcing immigration laws unjustly, but also breaking local law. And basically their permits say that you can't hold a detainee for more than 24 hours. I forget some of the exact rules, but they are in violation of some of the zoning issues. But I feel like this is symbolic of a larger tension between federal authority and local governance, kind of a microcosm of how divided power in America can collide on one city block. So what is the outcome that these protests are looking for? And how do you balance the right to protest with the right of these neighbors to live in peace? Another one is, what is the role of law enforcement when every action becomes a risk of backlash? And lastly, how do leaders lead when the public no longer trusts official reports? So I feel like there's a bigger scenario happening where we are seeing a gap in what the government is saying and what's actually happening, and it's creating a lot of distrust. So let me know what you think about that. Do you think the government is trustworthy? And so here's a little reflection. This is where to anchor your heart. Peace really matters. Scripture calls us to be peacemakers. Peacemakers enter the chaos and bring restoration. We don't just ignore it. We don't ignore the injustice or ignore the lines crossed. So where's the balance here? What does peacemaking look like in this situation? And above all, pray for peace. Thank you for watching. And God bless.